Salutations, everypup! Welcome to the last and final chapter, chapter 28 of Sorry, Wrong Number by ShizunaRey. As always, the link to the fic will be in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's jump on into it. Chapter 28. Did you dial this number? Author's notes. The end. I'm gonna purge the not a chapters soon, so don't be surprised if the chapter count drops a little. 5 months later. Avengers Plus. Steve. We're getting meeting room 21. Iron Dad. Ugh, is that the one that smells like Fury shot a rat and left it there? OG Bird. No, it is! Steve. Yeah, I have to agree, it's not great. OG Bird. We're the Avengers, man. They can't put us in there. Boss Lady. It's an hour-long meeting. It's not going to kill you. Iron Dad. Pepper, I love you, but it actually smells like death in there. Boss Lady. Breathe through your mouth, then. Iron Dad. You wound me. Iron Dad. Also, we've got people with super senses on the team that are going to lose their sense of smell if they take a step in there. Iron Dad. Right? At Steve, at Spider-Man, at B. Barnes. Steve. I'm sorry, Pepper, but I do have to agree with Tony on this. Steve. Bucky is still visiting Shuri and T'Challa. He won't be attending. Iron Dad. At Spider-Man. Iron Dad. At Spider-Man. Iron Dad. At Spider-Man. Boss Lady. Tony, stop that. You know he's studying. Boss Lady. I'll see what I can do about the room. Iron Dad. That's why you're my favorite Avenger. The Banner. I think I would have not been able to hold the Hulk back if we were in there. Peter was panicking. This wasn't the mild, background kind of panic he could usually shove aside with a bad joke or a web swing through Manhattan. No, this was full-body, heart-racing, brain-melting panic. The kind that made every Spanish word he'd ever learned evaporate into thin air. Okay, he muttered, pacing his room. Ser, estar. I know this. I knew this yesterday. Why did I know this yesterday? His Spanish test was tomorrow. Not just any test. The test. The one that would drag his already terrible grade out of the danger zone. Or bury it permanently. And in 3 hours, there was an Avengers meeting. A mandatory Avengers meeting. Which meant no last-minute cramming, no all-nighter, no desperate Googling how to Spanish in one night. Peter groaned and flopped face first onto his bed. I'm doomed! This is it. This is how Spider-Man falls. Not to a supervillain. Nope. To irregular verbs. His phone buzzed under his pillow. He ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. With a sigh, he grabbed it and saw that Tony was spam pinging him in the Avengers group chat. Peter froze. Avengers group chat. Spanish. Peter pushed himself up slowly, his brain catching up with a memory somewhere between alien invasions and late-night patrols. He'd learned that Jake Lockley, Moon Knight, spoke Spanish. Fluently. Why did he know that again? Unclear. Had it seemed important at the time? Also unclear. Was it important now? Oh, absolutely. Peter stared at his phone like it might explode. This is insane, he whispered. This is a terrible idea. He clicked on the Avengers chat and viewed the past members tag, and there it was. Where is Gus? He hit call. It rang once, twice, 3. Yeah? The voice on the other end was low, rough, and immediately alert. Peter sat up straighter. Hi, it's Peter? Peter Parker. Spider-Man. The kid? We met that one time with the, thing? A pause. Could I talk to Jake, please? If it's not too much of a bother? So what's happening? Jake said, concern already evident in his voice. Cool, you're here. I'm here. We're both... Kid, you're calling me, Jake said slowly, to remind me you exist. No! I mean, No, that's not. Okay, look. I have a Spanish test tomorrow, and I'm failing, and I don't understand anything, and I remember you speak Spanish, and I have an Avengers meeting in 3 hours, and I'm panicking! Silence. Peter squeezed his eyes shut. I know this is weird. I know this is really weird. You can hang up. I would hang up. I deserve that. Another pause. You calling me, Jake repeated, because you need help studying. Yes! For school. Yes! You're an Avenger. Peter winced. Technically, yeah, but... And this is what you're panicking about. I am multitasking my crises. Jake exhaled, something between a sigh and a quiet laugh. Kid, he said, you got a notebook? Peter blinked. What? A notebook, Jake repeated. Or you just planning to absorb knowledge through your big-ass forehead? Yes! I have like 5! Good. Grab one. Sit down. We got, what, 3 horas? Peter scrambled off his bed, nearly tripping over his backpack. 2 hours and 53 minutes! Plenty of time, Jake said. Peter froze mid-scribble. That doesn't sound like plenty of time. It is if you stop talking and start listening. Peter snapped his mouth shut. Alright, Jake continued. We start simple. You're messing up Ser and a star, yeah? Peter's eye twitched. How did you... Everyone messes that up. Write this down. Peter obeyed instantly, pen poised. For permanent stuff, identity, what something is, you use Ser. Peter wrote furiously. For temporary stuff, feelings, location, conditions, you use estar. Okay, Peter said slowly. Okay, that actually makes sense. Good. Now say, I am tired. Estoy cansado, Peter replied automatically. Why? Because being tired is temporary? Exactly. Peter's eyes widened. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh, that actually clicked! Why didn't my teacher say it like that? Maybe you talk too much in class. No. Jake huffed a quiet laugh. And just like that, something shifted. Peter's panic didn't disappear, but it loosened its grip. Words started sticking, rules started making sense. Every time Peter stumbled, Jake didn't get frustrated, but just repeated, rephrased, and broke it down until it clicked. Time blurred. At some point, Peter ended up sprawled on the floor, notebook filled with messy notes and half-legible examples. His room was a disaster. His brain felt like it had run a marathon. But for the first time all day, he didn't feel doomed. Okay, Peter said, staring at his notes. Okay, wait, so I'm at home is estoy en casa because location is temporary. Muy bien. And I am a student is soy estudiante because that's like identity? Exactly. Peter grinned. I'm getting this! I'm actually getting this! Told you. Peter hesitated, then laughed softly. You did. There was a brief pause on the line. Hey, Peter said, a little more quietly. Thanks. Really, you didn't have to. Kid, Jake cut in, voice softer now. You called for help. You're trying. That counts. Peter swallowed, something warm settling in his chest. Yeah, I guess it does. His phone buzzed again, this time with a reminder. Avengers meeting, 10 minutes. Peter groaned. Oh no. What? I have to go. Avengers thing. World saving, you know. Yeah, I've heard of it. Peter scrambled to his feet, grabbing his mask. But, wait, can we, maybe later, just a little more practice? A beat. Yeah, Jake said. Call me after your meeting? Peter blinked in surprise. Really? Yeah, we're not done fixing your grades yet. Peter grinned. Okay, yeah, deal! He hesitated again, then added, Gracias. De nada, kid. Peter hung up, heart lighter than it had been all day. He grabbed his mask, pulled it on, and headed for the window. Mark didn't expect to see anyone he knew on a bus. That was probably his first mistake. His second was not paying attention for exactly half a second too long. The bus lurched to a stop, doors hissing open, and Mark stepped inside just as someone else stepped forward from the opposite direction. They collided with a solid shoulder to shoulder. Mark's stance adjusted instantly, balance correcting, eyes snapping up and then narrowing. Really? He said flatly. Clint Barton blinked at him, equally surprised for about half a second before it melted into something more amused. Well, Clint said, glancing around the bus, this is either a weird coincidence or I finally lost it. Mark scoffed, stepping past him into the aisle. You, on public transport? Yeah, I'm leaning toward lost it. A couple of passengers glanced over at the tone, then quickly looked away. Clint followed him without hesitation. Hey! He shot back. Some of us like to stay humble. Mark grabbed onto one of the overhead rails as the bus jerked back into motion. You have a multi-million-dollar compound. Not my compound. You live there. Temporarily. I own a building now. Mark gave him a look. Right. Clint just grinned back. The bus wasn't full, but it wasn't empty either. A few scattered seats, a handful of people minding their own business. Clint nodded toward an open spot near the back. Come on, sit down. You look like you're judging everyone in here. I am judging everyone in here. Yeah, see, that's exhausting. Sit. Mark hesitated, out of principle more than anything. Then, with a quiet exhale, he dropped into the window seat. Clint sat down beside him like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The bus rattled along, city blurring past them outside. Mark glanced sideways. So what, your fancy jet breakdown? Clint snorted. Yeah, had to park it next to my private yacht. Mark's mouth twitched, just barely. Thought so. Car's in the shop, Clint added after a second. Figured I'd try being a normal person for once. Mark hummed. And how's that working out for you? Clint leaned back in his seat, stretching his legs out slightly. So far, I've been body checked by a guy in a hoodie and judged by at least 3 strangers. 4, Mark corrected. Driver's watching you in the mirror. Clint glanced up, caught the driver's eye, and gave a small wave. The driver did not wave back. Yeah, okay, 4, Clint admitted. Mark let out a quiet breath that might have been a laugh. The bus slowed at a light. You take the bus often? Clint asked. Mark shook his head. Less traceable than cabs sometimes. Of course it is, Clint muttered. Mark tilted his head slightly. You don't think like that? I try not to think like that, Clint said. Doesn't always stick. Mark studied him for a second. Yeah, he said quieter. A brief, comfortable enough silence settled over them. Then Clint nudged him lightly with his elbow. You ever not in work mode? Mark didn't even hesitate. No. Clint sighed. That sounds exhausting. It's efficient. Sure. The bus jolted slightly over a bump. Up ahead, someone pulled the stop cord. Clint glanced toward the front, then back out the window. That's me, he said. Mark nodded. Figured you wouldn't last long. Clint stood, grabbing onto the overhead bar as the bus slowed. Then he looked back down at Mark. You should come by my building sometime, Clint said casually, like he was suggesting grabbing coffee. Rooftop barbecue. Nothing fancy. Mark raised an eyebrow. You inviting me to a social event? Don't make it weird. It's already weird. Clint smirked. Yeah, but it could be fun weird. The bus hissed to a stop. The doors opened, and immediately movement outside caught Mark's attention. A girl in a purple sweater stood on the sidewalk, practically bouncing on her toes, waving both arms like she was trying to flag down a plane. Beside her, a one-eyed dog wagging its entire body, tail going at full speed. "Clint!" she called, grinning. "You're late!" Clint sighed, but there was no real annoyance in it. "I'm on time, Kate," he called back, stepping toward the door. "You're just early." The dog barked, tail somehow wagging even harder. Kate pointed at the bus. "You took the bus?" Mark snorted under his breath. Clint shot him a look over his shoulder. "Don't start." "Too late," Mark muttered. Clint shook his head, then glanced back at him one last time. "Offer stands," he said. "Rooftop next Sunday. Food. Minimal judging." Mark leaned back slightly in his seat. "No promises on that last part." Clint grinned. "Wouldn't expect any. I'll text you the address." Then he stepped off the bus. Kate immediately grabbed his arm, still talking a mile a minute while the dog circled them both in excited loops. Mark watched through the window as Clint said something that made her laugh, reaching down absently to scratch the dog behind the ears. The doors slid shut, the bus pulled away. Mark looked forward again, the faintest trace of something thoughtful settling in his expression. "Fun weird," he muttered. He didn't smile, but it was a pretty close thing. Stephen wasn't supposed to be here. Well, technically, he was. The museum was open to the public. He had a perfectly valid ticket, and no one had stopped him at the entrance. But still. When he was let go, Donna had told him with no uncertainty that he was not welcome in any more museums. But they had just gotten a new collection. Okay, just a quick look, he muttered to himself, clutching the little brochure a bit too tightly. In and out, no trouble. He stopped abruptly in front of the glass display next to him. Stood a man, and Stephen really didn't mean to start talking. It just happened. "Oh, that one's interesting," he said, stepping up beside the man. "Most people miss it, but the detailing there, see the inscription along the edge? That's not purely decorative. It's doing something a bit more specific, I think." The man beside him gave a small nod, eyes still on the artifact. "Yeah," he said. "I can see that." Stephen brightened immediately. "Right? It's like a layered meaning situation, where it's not just about the general protection of something more targeted, but almost personal. But something more targeted, almost personal." He stopped, blinking, because he'd finally properly looked at who he was talking to. "Oh, Dr. Benner!" Stephen blurted, straightening up so quickly he nearly smacked his elbow against the glass. "Sorry, I didn't realize. Hello." Bruce Banner glanced at him, recognition settling in with a small, familiar smile. "Hey, Stephen." Stephen clasped his hands together, immediately flustered. "Right, yes, hello. Good to see you again. I didn't mean to just start lecturing you about artifacts. It's a bit rude, actually." "You're fine," Bruce said with a smile tugging at his lips. Stephen let out a small breath. "Right. Good. Brilliant." A short pause. Stephen shifted his weight, clearly trying to recover some sense of normal conversation. "So," he started, then winced slightly even as the words came out. "How has Avengering been?" Bruce's expression tightened just a fraction. "I'd rather not talk about work," he said gently, almost apologetic. "If that's okay." Stephen nodded immediately. "Yep, that's completely fair. I get that. Boundaries, very important, yes. No work talk at all." Bruce's shoulders relaxed just a little. "Thanks." Stephen glanced back at the display, then back at Ruth, then back at the display again, brain clearly scrambling for a safer topic. "Are you interested in Egyptology?" he asked, a bit more cautiously this time. Ruth huffed a quiet laugh. "I am now." That was all the encouragement Stephen needed. "Oh, brilliant!" Stephen said, visibly perking up. "Right, this piece here," he said, and pointed at the golden artifact. "What's fascinating is how the inscriptions aren't just decorative. They're structured almost like instructions." Bruce leaned in slightly, hands tucked into his pockets, listening. Instructions? He echoed. Yes, like, look. Stephen pointed carefully closer, keeping a respectful distance from the glass. The way the symbols are arranged, they follow a sort of directional logic. It's less about storytelling and more about function. They're guarding something or protecting, maybe even activating. Bruce studied it a moment longer. So, not just symbolic, but practical. Exactly! Stephen said, pleased. Most people see hieroglyphs and think story, but a lot of it is about purpose, protection, transition, identity, especially in funerary contexts. It's all very intentional. Bruce nodded slowly. I like that. That there's intent behind it. Oh, absolutely, Stephen continued, warming up now. And this one, see the placement? It's positioned near the center of the object, which suggests it wasn't just decorative. It was meant to be seen and interacted with. Bruce raised an eyebrow slightly. Stephen hesitated, then gave a small, slightly sheepish smile. I mean, not in a magical way. Well, maybe in a ritual way. It's more about belief than literal power. Bruce's expression softened. Got it. Stephen nodded quickly. It's all about context. The people who made these believed these symbols had weight. Even if we interpret them differently now, that belief shaped how they were used. Bruce glanced at another artifact nearby. That's kind of like how we treat technology, I guess. Stephen blinked. Oh? People assign meaning to it, Bruce said. Trust it, fear it, depend on it, even if it's just tools. Stephen considered that, then smiled. That's a very thoughtful comparison. Bruce gave a small shrug. Occupational hazard. Stephen let out a quiet chuckle. They moved slowly along the exhibit, Stephen occasionally pointing things out, Bruce asking quiet, thoughtful questions. The conversation flowed easily, just two people genuinely interested in what was in front of them. At one point, Stephen paused at a different display, his voice softening slightly. This one's more personal, he said. See how the markings are similar? Less formal. It suggests it belonged to someone who wanted something more intimate and less about status. Bruce nodded. Feels different. Stephen agreed. Sometimes the smallest pieces carry the most intention. They stood there for a moment in comfortable silence. Then Bruce glanced at his watch. His expression shifted slightly. Ah, he muttered. Stephen noticed immediately. Oh, sorry, I've kept you, haven't I? I do tend to lose track of time when I get going. Bruce shook his head. No, you're good. This was nice. Stephen smiled, a little bashful. I'm glad. Bruce turned to face him fully now. I'm sorry, I have to go, he said. Stephen nodded quickly. Of course, yes, no problem at all. Important Avenger things. Bruce gave a small, knowing look at the last part, but didn't comment on it. Instead, he smiled. You're good at that, Bruce said. Explaining things, making them easier. Stephen blinked, caught off guard. Thank you, he said quietly. You'd make a great tour guide, Stephen, Bruce said, and stepped back then, adding, Let's talk more about Egyptian symbolism soon, yeah? Stephen's face lit up slightly. Oh, absolutely, I would love that. There's a new exhibit on the 31st. Bruce nodded once, satisfied, then turned to leave. Stephen watched him go for a moment, then looked back at the artifacts with a soft, thoughtful expression. Avengers Plus. Better Bird. I don't even care what we watch. Iron Dad. I'm not watching Nat's Cold War documentary. Natasha. And I'm not watching Forbidden Planet. OG Bird. Ugh, those both suck. OG Bird. You guys suck. Spider-Man. Why can't we just watch Alien? Iron Dad. 'Cause Steve and Sam watched that like 2 weeks ago without telling any of us. OG Bird. Boo! Better Bird. Steve didn't like it anyways. Spider-Man. I have a solution! Spider-Man added Where is Gus to the group. Spider-Man. Moon Knight shall decide our fate! Where is Gus? What the fuck does that mean? Where is Gus? This is Mark, by the way. Hi. Where is Gus? What am I doing here? Spider-Man. You have been selected! The Banner. We're indecisive what to watch for movie night. Iron Dad. You're welcome to come, by the way, Mooney. Natasha. You can come as long as you don't suggest watching Forbidden Planet. Better Bird. Oh my god, at this rate, we're not gonna watch anything. Where's Gus? You guys have movie nights? Iron Dad. Regularly. Apparently, we have to culturize ourselves. Where is Gus? Okay. Spider-Man. Please come! It's super fun. OG Bird. What Spidey said. Where is Gus? Where is Gus? Sure, I guess I can come over. Author's notes. I've been writing this for 4 years now. The word count is so small in comparison, but this fic will forever be my baby. Thank you all for your continuous support. I hope I'll see your profiles pop up somewhere again, be it under one of my fics, or maybe one we've both read. All my love to you guys. Final notes. This was it! Notes, kudos, comments? As an end note, here is a shameless self-promo for my Discord server. It's a place where you can share fanfics and talk about your faves. If you're interested in all that, I'd love for you to join my little community right here. And then there's a link to the Discord server. And that is a wrap on Sorry, Wrong Number by ShizunaRey. This is such a great fic. I love it so much. I remember first clicking onto it thinking it was going to be a texting story, and it kind of is a texting story, but it's a lot more plot than texting, which I actually really like because it gives me lots of story. And it was a good story too. I love Moon Knight meets Avengers 6, and there really aren't enough. There aren't enough people who like Moon Knight. I wish more people liked Moon Knight. Which it sucks that more people don't like Moon Knight, but whatever, I digress. Please go show the original author ShizunaRey some love. They deserve it. Please leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. They make me so happy. Please leave me specifically hate comments. And I will shout you out the next time I do a Marvel fic, which I don't know when that will be. Actually, I might replace Marvel with another My Hero slot, since you all seem to like that. But then again, I'm gonna have to do more My Hero. I'll figure it out. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed. Let me end this fic here, because no hate comments on the last 2 videos, so nobody to shout out. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye, pups!